Alrighty, so today I'm doing my first of a series of podcast interviews I'm going to be doing on YouTube. So, for you who are listening to the audio iteration of the podcast, you can go and watch the video iteration, which I recommend that you do on YouTube because today is going to be visual heavy. We're going to be talking about book cover designs. Now, I'm really happy today to be doing this first series and interviews with a new colleague that I have grown to really enjoy the quality of what she's doing, the quality of her work and what she's doing, and her design acumen and style, because she's just done some beautiful work. And I want to introduce you to LaKeshia D. Walton. LaKeshia is the designer and the owner and creative behind the art of Melanin. She's also the author of Blooms of Hope, her new planner and journal series, which I'm proud and happy to say that I was able to help her develop over the last several months. And so that now is released and available. And I'll tell you more about how you can get that in a moment. And again, LaKeshia has done such stellar work, and I wanted to bring her on because I want to talk about book covers. There's a saying that is holds so true that we cannot judge a book by its cover, but we do judge the cover. And if the cover doesn't work, chances are we won't find out what's inside the book. So today we're going to do something kind of fun and different, and we're going to actually look at some book covers on Amazon. We're going to talk about what works and what could be improved. Now, I want to be clear, these are all not projects that I'm personally involved in. I'm not coming from a space of being negative or putting someone's work down or anything of that nature. I want to look at this as a teaching moment and an informative moment so that for you listening, who clearly are listening because you do have an intention or a plan to create a book at some point, you want to pay attention to this part of it because the cover is what's going to help you sell more books. So again, if you're looking at your book in conjunction with everything that's happening on Amazon, they are judging the book by the cover. So we're going to be talking about that today. We're going to go through several book covers that LaKeshia has chosen for us, and I'm going to have her share why she chose the books and what she likes about them, what can be improved about them. And I'll ask her some questions along the way. But again, I want to just, again, encourage you while I love you listening to the audio iteration of the podcast. I've got a link here in the show notes that you can go over and watch the video iteration so that you can see actually what we're looking at. So, with that said, I want to just first say, LaKeshia, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So, as I said, we're going to go through some book covers. So, let's go right into it. Let me switch my screen here and I will pull up those book covers that we've selected, and we'll start going through them. And let me start the screen share here. And here we go. All righty. All righty. So, one of the covers that we have, so we're going to be talking about different types of books. We're going to be talking about maybe some planners. I think there's a coloring book or so we've put in there. So different types of books. But what I want to just kind of position it is this. Um, some of them we're going to be talking about are going to be more graphics heavy. Some may have more photography. We're going to be talking about typography, color palette choice, all of that. One of the things I do want to start out with before we get into sort of reviewing or, this book cover is when you're looking at a book on Amazon, one of the things that I do before I start bringing in people into my Coloring Book Society program is I do a validate your idea before you make it. And one of the things that we do as a part of that exercise is we research books that would be similar to the one that you're thinking about wanting to make your book about. And one of the things that I notice, and you'll notice too, if you're listening to this and you're thinking about developing a book, is go over to Amazon and just type into the search what type of book that you're thinking about creating. And when you put that information in there, Amazon's going to show you a list of potential titles that may fit the search results of what you typed in. Now, the first thing that has to happen when you do that is you notice you're going to see smaller iterations of that book cover. It's not going to be a fuller version like what you're seeing here on the screen. That this in turn makes your artwork vital because if, first of all, your title will be competing with everything that shows up in that search result. And if it doesn't stand out, you are lessening the chances that people will click to see it from the version in which we're looking at it now on the screen. So again, it has to work as a thumbnail. It has to be just as clear and resolute as is when they click on it and see the bigger version of it. So I just wanted to preface it with that as these look great because they're, what we're picking is bigger on the screen, but you also, it has to work when it's smaller as well. So with that said, I just wanted to preface it with that so that there's some context behind why we're talking about these particular covers. So I know, LaKeshia, you developed a planner and a journal series, and if you'd like, tell us a little bit about your particular project and what went into. Now, I don't have an iteration of it to show you on Amazon. I will pull up actually her book on the site that she has. I'll pull that up and show you that in a moment. But when you were thinking about your book title in and of itself, which is titled Blooms of Hope, what was the visuals that sort of came to you as you were deciding what would go on your cover visually?
Right. So the title immediately, the first thing I thought about was flower. And so it was important to me to pick a flower that represented hope. So it tied into the title. I wanted to the user to have a cohesive experience. So the daffodils were chosen because they are a symbol of hope, a symbol of resilience, and because they are a bloom. You see them open, and yeah, so that's what the reasoning was behind that. I also chose daffodils for the color because the color yellow is also, a symbol of hope, and the green, it's simple. I'm sorry, exemplifies like renewal and growth. So that was the reasoning for choosing that
Mhm.
particular flower.
Got you,
Yeah.
got you, got you. So yeah, so this again is a part of the part of what we're going to talk about today is obviously we're thinking about the title, we're thinking about the subject matter of the book. And so our artwork really needs to be the visual um, accompaniment to the words
Right.
that we select. And so again, her book specifically, her project, her journal and planner project is it's a grief journal for people who are going through the grieving process and they want to process their feelings and what's coming up for them, which is again a part of the title, Blooms of Hope. So as you look at this, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're looking at this, you can see that every aspect of what's going on in the cover here ties into the title, the subject, the theme, the color palette. Everything has to tie in together. Otherwise, it feels a little disconnected. And I know it can be tempting in this day and age right now to maybe go, grab some things off of Canva or some other, quote unquote stock agency type site. And I would recommend if you're publishing on Amazon KDP, do not do that. We can't use the elements on Canva in our covers. That's against KDP or Amazon's rules of copyright usage. We can't do that. So if that's what you've been doing, I recommend stop doing that immediately because that can get your account shut down. Another podcast for another day. But what I wanted to just emphasize is when you are putting your covers together, what you want to do is to think about, okay, first of all, where's the image coming from? But does it represent the feeling that I want the person to potentially buy this book to get? Does it represent it visually? Does it represent it with the fonts? Is it clear and easy for me to read? Can I look at this book not knowing anything about this book or the person who created this book and know this could be for me? And because again, we're judging the book by the cover. So, and I'm assuming that no one's personally recommended the book to you. You just found it on your own in your own searching. So if you see something like this, will it make you stop and pay attention to it? And if your book doesn't have that, I'm sorry, if your cover doesn't have that stop the scroll and pay attention effect, impact, your cover probably is not working for you.
Mhm.
So that's why I wanted to start out as LaKeshia's going through some other titles, what effort she put into her own title
Right.
and the choices that she made. Okay.
Yep.
Anything to add to that, LaKeshia?
Just to me, specifically, symbolism is important as well. So, but like I was saying before, it all needs to send a cohesive message, um, meaning when they look at it, whether you you only have like a second to get across your message, and so you want to convey as much as you can when they see your product. So my thought process was, when they see it, are they getting a message of hope, of renewal? Is it inviting? Is it welcoming? Does it feel soothing? Is it comforting? Those are things I thought about, between the color palette, the choice. I wanted them to feel, a certain way. What emotions are the images and the words evoking in the person that is going to be purchasing or thinking about purchasing the work. The heart, was symbolic. The lighting in the picture was symbolic. It's leading them somewhere. All of it is speaking to them because, book covers, they're visual, but it's also psychological as well. What are they getting, without you having to say the words, as well. So, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And this totally represents everything that you've just laid out. And also want to let you all know listening is that LaKeshia is opening some spots on her calendar to do some consults. So if you are in that phase of putting your book together, your idea together, even if, and I will go so far as to say this, even if you've not written a word yet or started designing a whole lot yet, I would recommend, highly recommend, working on your cover for a couple of reasons. One, having a cover design, even if it's not the one you ultimately go with, having some sample designs of your cover will motivate you to get the book finished, because when you see it, you see some mock-up representation of the cover, it will inspire you to get it done. Secondly, it can be used in your preliminary marketing, and I'll talk about that a little bit more as we sort of wrap up the conversation today. But you can use that in your preliminary marketing to get people interested in your book as you're working on it. So LaKeshia's service that she offers will help you to get those first ideas sort of fleshed out, and an understanding of what your book is going to be about, what's the emotion you want people to feel, what's going to make them stop the scroll, so that you're not creating in a vacuum or just going to Canva as an example and just grabbing, again, stock images and trying to jury rig something together that may not ultimately be what you use and may not work for you. What you want, getting that second set of eyes. So again, I'll be sharing some ways so you can work with LaKeshia to get some support around that. All righty. Yeah, so if you're ready, LaKeshia, let's pop right into it. So these are books that LaKeshia has selected, and I'm going to let her take over. I'm going to pop it up and then let her talk about why she picked it and what her thoughts are about it. And this is how you watching this can start to get a sense of the way she thinks in regards to your first designs of your book covers. So let's go with the first one here, which is called Affirmations for Black Women, a journal with positive messages and prompts to affirm self-care, worth, empower your spirit, and attract success. So why did you pick this book, LaKeshia, this cover?
So the artwork caught my eye. It was a very soft palette. Uh, I I thought it was inviting, but I also picked it because it's very wordy and because there are a lot of different styles of typography. And typically, for me personally, as a designer, you're thinking about someone's eye seeing your work. I try to stick to about two, no more than three styles, but I, looking at it, counted at least four, if not, you know, more than that. And as a designer, it looks busy to me. So the type is busy, and I couldn't read the smaller type from the because it's scripted, so it was harder to read when it was smaller. I can see it, at a in a bigger size, but you, as we mentioned before, only have a moment to grab someone's attention. Um, I do like that in the top, it's clear, it's affirmations for Black women, so it's fairly clear what it's about. So you get that, um, but I just really think that that could be simplified or really moved to the inside of the journal, or could the smaller type be put on the back of the journal as a descriptor to what's in it.
Mhm.
Um, you want people to get what it is instantaneously without having to. People's attention now, their attention span is very limited, and unfortunately, many times people are not wanting to read that much. And so that's why I picked this particular one. I do like the palette, and yeah, I think it speaks to it, but I just would have improved on the type.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that assessment. First of all, in the subject on Amazon, in the title, I'm sorry, on Amazon, everything that's on the cover is written at the top. So all of that information actually is there. But I think in regards to the cover, again, we've got at least four font styles. And again, I agree. I recommend staying with two, at the max three, but I really try to lean towards two, to be honest.
Mhm.
One, I will say, needs to be really clear in the style of font, meaning that it can't have a lot of elements going on, not a to simplify the verbiage I'm trying to say here, it can't be too fancy, because if it's too fancy, people can't necessarily always read it.
Yeah,
So
right.
you want to balance out the fancy with the clearer,
Mhm.
type font style. And I agree 100% with the title could have stopped at 100 positive messages and prompts, and then the second part, to affirm self-worth, all of that could have gone inside the book, which actually the 100 positive messages and prompts, to me, is a selling point, which should be bigger, in
Mhm.
my opinion. I feel like that would give it a lot more. It's clear who it's for. The artwork I really enjoy across the board. I think the artwork is beautiful. I love the hands. I love that she used a variety of skin tones. So there was thought that went into that. She has three different skin tones of in this case, a Black woman, which is great. She's acknowledging that we all come in different hues and shades and so on and so forth. So I think that's brilliant. I love the feeling of positivity with the butterflies and the sunshine, and again, the beautiful colors. It's a soft palette. I feel like even with the hands in the different skin tones, it frames the eye around
Mhm.
the artwork in the middle. And so all eyes are going to that box in the middle where all the type is.
Right.
But looking at it in a smaller size like this, I have to kind of move my eye, literally move my head in closer to the screen to read everything that's after a journal because the font is so much smaller. So in that context, I feel that, okay, out of all of this, the 100 positive messages and prompts to me is a selling point. I would emphasize that, put all the rest of that to affirm your self-worth and empower your spirit and success. I would put that probably in the inside flap or the first page of the book. I do agree with you on that.
I agree.
100%. All righty. So I'm going to pop over to the next book. And this one here, now the artwork on this one is really bold and it would definitely stop the scroll just
Right.
based on the artwork alone. So I'm going to stop and let you take over and
Exactly. And that's exactly why I chose it, because it caught my eye, and I was like, wow, that's really it's really, eye catching for sure.
Mhm.
Um so I have I don't know if I want to say love-hate relationship with script. I like script. However, you do have to be careful with script. And then depending on your target audience when it comes to script, younger people have a hard time reading it because cursive is not often taught in schools anymore. So I don't know who the target is. It's just, it just says, but the letters kind of all go together. So it's, I don't know, a little difficult to read. And to me, it kind of blends with everything else that's going on in the picture. So I would have wanted to try to call it out. I do like, well, they have two, well, really it's three fonts here. The name is one font, the title is another font, and then the subtitle is a different font. I do like that it's bold, so you can, you can see it, but it, I don't know. I would have wanted to probably not use the script font, me personally. It almost blends into the picture because of the design of the picture. The font almost becomes a part of the design. So and that's just what I see. I actually missed the name until the artwork was blown up. I didn't see the name in the top
Uh,
cover there. So and then the color palette, it blends into, into the background. So not saying he couldn't, or whoever, he or she couldn't have used it, but I probably would have chosen a different color, and just done something different for that typography to stand out. But I think the image is gorgeous. I just love how it's very different, and it's eye catching for sure.
mhm. And I'm going to blow it up here and look at the fuller version of it. So when we see it in a bigger size, well, the first thing about it is, and again, if you're listening to this, I recommend hopping over to YouTube. You can see where we're looking at right now. Um, the eyes is the first thing that brings me into it, and the color palette across the board is very striking in and of itself. And I even, as I look at the font closer, I do like the tonality of the color gradient between the darker moving out into the lighter gold effect. I personally can kind of get around. Now, I had not thought about, you brought up something that I had not thought about. I hadn't thought about, quote unquote, younger people not really learning how to write cursive. That never even occurred to me.
Mhm.
But I also say, I guess, to um, my opinion about it, I guess, in another word I want to use here to counter what you're saying
Mhm.
is if my audience, which I feel for this book would probably be a more mature individual who would probably that decision about not choosing a cursive font because I'm dealing with a younger generation probably wouldn't occur to me
Mhm.
in that respect. But because the design is so complex and striking in a way, I do agree that this, especially affirming, the word it's
Mhm.
affirming beauty is the title of the book.
Right.
Affirming gets lost, especially after you get past the I.
Mhm.
The rest of the lettering gets lost. So that to me is something I would probably do a variety of different font styles. I might have to have affirming be a different font style and beauty be a second one. I would, and because the book is called Affirming Beauty, I would, beauty is the standout word, where affirming to me feels like the strong, in this context, the stronger word. So I would make affirming larger and beauty, if I had to, the sizes are it should be either the same or affirming
Bigger.
should be bigger and beauty be smaller.
Mhm.
And with that said, a design style that I would do. So this is something I recommend to all of you listening. Do your original design and then just keep iterating. Excuse me. Do it again.
And the centering of the subtitle. I didn't see it smaller, but if you look at it, I would have wanted to put that second line um, midway of the first line on the bottom because it's left adjusted. But that's, you know, I don't know that that's something that makes or breaks, but I guess it's a design thing.
Yeah, yeah. Before I had my little coughing thing here, what I would have done or would have done an iteration of is I would have made the word affirming bigger and then made beauty smaller and then moved the beauty over so that it went up under the FFRIM. I would have done it. I would have done an iteration that way. So perhaps the font could, maybe the font style choice could be okay if it was larger.
Mm,
Perhaps that I'd have to see it that way to really get clear about that. And
right.
then, like I said, I would have made the word beauty, I would have swapped the size, moved the beauty over and put it blended under.
Mhm.
And I might would have even played with making the A larger
Mhm.
and then having the rest of the word in the same size that it is, but brought that A almost down
Right.
to the bottom and then moved beauty much smaller underneath that.
Right.
Um, I think I would have liked to have seen a sample of it that way.
Right.
Also, I think
And
that the name of the person should probably have been down here as opposed to right up at the upper left
yeah.
corner of the book, right corner of the book. I'm sorry. And then as far as the title or the subtitle goes, I would have center case that as opposed to having it justified left.
Right. Yep. Yeah. That was exactly my thought. And maybe affirming could work if the spacing of it, I think it's the spacing of the letter, especially that R in
Mhm,
it blends. And
mhm,
so initially I mean, I know the word affirming, but I was I was like, what is
mhm,
that saying? And I'm like,
mhm,
oh, okay, I get it.
mhm, mhm.
um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree. I agree. And So again, I'm not sure what, so for you listening, I'm not going to assume what this person did,
Right.
but if you're using, let's say Canva and or Photoshop or Illustrator, there's a tool you can use in those programs that will let you space out the lettering.
Mhm.
So that could have also helped to make that after the IR a little bit more, give you a little bit more real estate to look at here. Um, Otherwise, like I said, I think it's a striking cover. I just think
Mhm.
it just needs some additional tweaking. And so what I'll say to you, if you're self doing it yourself, let me go back to the smaller iteration of it. It it to me, it passed the thumbnail test as far as the color palette and the image goes. As far as the font style and choice and spacing, it's probably like a I'm probably gonna give it like a B minus to a C. but but that would be my thing. But I think it's a gorgeous cover. Yeah,
Mhm. I agree.
you know. And
So
so, any other thoughts you had, LaKeshia, about it?
that is my same assessment.
Okay,
Didn't see
let's pop over to
that.
the next one. Okay, now the next one's called "Breathe," a self-care coloring book celebrating Black women, and I'll let you take it away.
So this one, what do so it's simpler than I guess probably the other two that we've um, looked at. So the top title, Breathe, I probably would have chosen a different font. Um, I see why they chose the white box is so that it will, stand out from the background, but I don't know, it doesn't really work for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that it's off center. Um, Personally, I'm not crazy about the image. I mainly chose it because I chose it because of the image, but not necessarily because I like the image. I guess I was it it almost seems like there's a lot going on with it. I mean, you have a lot in the background going on. You have like several different plants, and it almost takes away from what's happening in the foreground.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get to the bottom title, and I don't like the italics personally. I probably would have wanted it sitting up, and I probably would have chose some different font, whether it was something a little bit more uh, bold. Um, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm struggling a little bit with the words I want to say. I don't want to say it's the worst cover or anything like that. I
Right.
guess I personally would have chosen some different, design
Right.
choices.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, and again, I want to emphasize something here. Again, I want to emphasize that this is not about putting down someone's work. This is
right,
really about how can we improve what we're putting together. Because again, if the person who's looking at our book, and let's go back to the version iteration of it on Amazon, for an example, if they're looking at this in comparison with everything else similar to it, what's going to make your book? That's a question you should be asking yourself. What's going to make your cover, I should say, make them stop the scroll over other options, like all the options that are available to them? So using this one as an example, so what I'm going to first start with my opinion about it. What works what works, and then what I don't want to say what doesn't work, but what works, because if overall the base image isn't working, it doesn't really matter what else you put on it or around it. It's still not going to make it, any better. What While I get the concept of the woman in this image being in a relaxing, I guess I could construe as a um like a Zen type of environment. And I love the beautiful robe she's wearing and the way she's, sitting in this chair in sort of this cross leg position. And, it kind of has a spa-esque feel to
Mm.
it. I don't know how the original image was generated. I don't want to assume it was AI, but it kind of has that vibe to it that it probably was. So if that's the case, then I would probably have done multiple iterations of that same image with a more intentional background that could denote that I'm in a spa environment. This looks like this could be like the quiet room in a spa. So I get it. I 1000% get it. And if that's the case, great. So then if that's going to be our base image, then let's then go, okay, now how is everything else going to fit into that? The first thing I notice is there's a green box at the top of the cover. So my question I would have is, why isn't the ceiling here all the way bled to the edge of it?
Mm.
And if I was going to have it stop at this edge where we've got this sort of whatever that material is, it kind of reminds me of Bali or something like that. That's the vibe of what this
Mm.
is. If I'm going to have this green box at the top or this teal box at the top, I would have the word breathe be layered on the top of that box and then have it a white font as opposed to the green on the white box, because doesn't it it doesn't I like the font style, but again, you have to look at it, every single aspect of what you're choosing, it has to complement and work with the other, otherwise overall the design doesn't work.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
did. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I don't know. When I see it, I don't necessarily get, or I didn't. I was trying to understand how the picture and breathe got, but I guess I had to read it into it
Mm-hmm.
um, to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're dealing with seconds. And so people
Exactly.
are not thinking. They need to automatically get what you're trying to say.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
when they see your cover.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
would say something like this, there's so many possibilities.
Hmm.
I would say with something like this would be a great example of something. If you so let me also preface this as well. Let's say you've already have your book, it's done, it's on Amazon or what have you, but you want to see, based on what you're hearing today, what could I do to improve? This is where an audit could be a good opportunity for you to arrange with LaKeshia, for an example, and look at how can we take the what I would call here the bones and improve it. And again, your favorite word should be iterate. Iterate, because you want to be able to, I can sometimes do up to 10 plus iterations before I find the one that's going to work. And I may end up taking something from iteration number 3 and something from iteration number 7, and that ends up in iteration number 12. So we can't be so excited to do the first one out the can, so to speak, and then say, okay, that's my cover. Um, we've got to be able to distance ourselves from what we're doing enough to look at it objectively and get feedback. Because
Right.
again, the book is being judged by its cover. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So I'll leave this one at that because there's a lot more that can be done with this, but I think that there's some bones there, but it
Mhm.
needs a more thought put into the choices. And I think the base starts with the image. Take all the typography out. Let's start with the base image first. Does that really work? And then
Right.
from there, you know. And
I,
so,
I,
go ahead.
to add to that, I probably would have wanted, looking at the rest of the title, where it says celebrating Black women empowerment and positivity. I probably would have wanted to speak to that. Depending, I don't know what type of images are in here. So, could there have been two or three women in there that, really drive home that message? Are they seeing that? Um, so, Black women empowerment. And, okay.
And while we've been spending a lot of time focusing on the front cover, because that's the first thing people are going to look at, but you have to keep
Mhm.
in mind your cover is the front and the back.
Right.
So again, you have to look at even what you're choosing for the back cover. Everything has to support each other. So does the images represent what the book is about? So again, um, let me, I'll preface it with this and we'll go on to the next book. If you are not in front of your customer talking to them where they're engaging with you, the only thing they have to go by is what they see online. And you're doing this, we all are doing this because we want to sell books. So if our potential customer doesn't have the opportunity to connect with us personally, visual, in person, our work has to do the selling for us. Our covers and everything has to do the selling for us. So everything that we pick has to have, everything we pick has to have a purpose and a reason behind it. And if we basically don't take that extra time to do that, we're leaving it up to the customer or potential customer to make the decision for us. And so again, I want to be really clear here. I'm not trying to take apart someone's work, but I look at this as an opportunity. And as you are watching this as a teaching moment to see, okay, how can I get closer to that to that point? So looking at the back cover here, I want to add this onto it. This box with all of this text here really doesn't even need to be there. That could all go inside the book. The images that are chosen, not quite 100% sure about that either. But if I was going to have these four images, this should be representing the best of what's inside the book. And they all should be bigger. They should almost fill up the back of the book with enough room for the barcode. So, because again, when people, if you, how we're looking at this on Amazon, we can look at the viewer, the potential customer can flip and look at the back of the book as well as the front of the book. So, if any point, again, this is actually this back cover is doing, I think, more heavy lifting than the front. And if it's not pulling me in, I might even could get past the front cover if the back, if what I saw was going to be inside the book was like, oh, I really want to color that, or I really want to
Mhm.
journal, I really want to use that. So again, every single thing, because they're not with you, they're not in your presence. Um, so everything has to it has to work. So just as a tip across the board, um, any extraneous copy needs to go inside the book. The whole back of that book needs to be the artwork that represents, with the exception of the barcode. Anything you want to add to that, LaKeshia?
Well, I agree. I didn't even look at the back, but then again, the back is a totally different. Actually, comparing the back to the front, they would seem like they're two different
Mhm.
works to me. Like
Mhm.
they're not the same book. If I saw
Mhm.
the back separate from the front, I would think I was looking at two different
Mhm.
things.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Yep.
I certainly agree with that. The images on the, if you're going to display those on the back, definitely need to be uh, the best representation of the interior of the book because, if someone's making the decision to purchase, have you put your best foot? Do I want to spend my money, on this? Um, and and is what I'm seeing from the visual, is it speaking to what I say the book is about?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So again, please listen as you're watching this, please take from this is again, I'm not about putting anyone's work down, but
right.
these are things that if you are doing this on your own and you don't have outside support or an objective eye, these are things that because it's gotten so much easier now to put together a book now, so much easier now.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of good resources and education out there right now that maybe listening to this podcast episode, whether you're watching it on YouTube or listening, could be the first time that you ever heard any of this
Right.
about what goes into putting together the cover. If you don't have any background or experience or you're not a trained designer, you only can do what you are aware of. And so that's why bringing in a second set of eyes and someone that is not, because again, we get too close to our own work. Even LaKeshia will say that. I know I am. We get too close to even our own stuff, and we need someone else to look at it and go,
Mhm.
okay, this isn't really working, or no, this could, And so again, if this appeals to what you're hearing and if you're getting what we're saying, this is where, yeah, even just having that audit consult with LaKeshia can really go a long way towards at least getting you on the right path,
Right.
so that your time is not in vain of what you're doing, to because it's work to put these together. This doesn't just happen overnight.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many iterations I did of mine and how many, different, different thoughts. And, I have a similar design that looks slightly, slightly different from, one to the next when I finally narrowed down kind of what I was looking for. And I did, exactly what you stated. It started with my cover. Like I had an idea. I knew I was going to, create a grief journal, and I had the title, but I needed to do the cover so that it helped me with my interior design. Like I needed to see what I was working with so it, you know, because it needed to flow. That I wanted it to have a flow from first first look to first, opening of the book.
Exactly, exactly. I'll land what you said with this. If your cover is the last thing you work on, you've already done it. I'm just going to break it. You've done it wrong.
Mm,
Do the cover first and then work on the interior pages.
mm,
Or if you start with, if you say you're doing your own designing, don't wait until you do all the interior pages and then do the cover. But as you're working on the inside pages, start looking at, okay, what's the cover going to look like? I personally think the cover should come first and then you do the interior pages. That's my opinion about it.
right,
Because that will then instruct, okay, does this fit with the cover?
right,
And
right.
it's either a firm yes or a firm no.
Exactly. Is it I mean, you can't see the interior of mine, but if you notice in the cover design at the bottom, there's a wood walking path. And so on the interior at the top of many of the pages, you see a little bit of wood flowing through.
Mhm,
So it speaks to that
mhm,
walking path that's in the, on the cover of the book.
mhm,
There's daffodils all, all throughout it that speaks to the beginning. So it's like, on every almost every single page, they're getting the same,
Yes.
the same message
Yes.
without having to speak the word, speak the word.
Yep. Yeah. The word is cohesion, and
Right.
it's subtle.
Hmm.
And actually, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, let's pop over to yours, as I believe that there are samples inside of it that do show that. Maybe not this way. You have to really look at it really closely because it's kind of a little bit smaller screen. But what I'm
Right.
looking at is some of the interior of LaKeshia's planner. And again, notice in the background behind each page, it carries the theme of the daffodil from the cover. These are subtle things that it's a part of the branding. It's a part of the overall message. It seems subtle and almost like it would be a very different book or very different experience if those accents weren't there.
Right.
And
And-
so when you're everything, and it can sound like we're picking things apart, but we kind of are, because everything has to have a reason why it's there.
right. And where it is,
Yeah.
because when I was designing initially designing it, um, I put the daffodils, they were in there. And then once I'd finished, it was kind of like, okay, when it's in book form, I don't want the daffodils on the inside page because they can't see it. So I had to, think about, okay, this page is going to be the front, the front facing page. I need to make sure that the daffodils are at the right edge. When
Mhm,
they flip it to the back, the
mhm,
daffodil is at the left, the left
mhm,
edge.
mhm.
All of that was
Yeah.
moved and flipped from page to page. So this journal is 220 pages, and every page, any transparencies I use different transparencies for different pages. But if I use the 25% transparency on one page,
Mhm,
on that particular page and the pages that look like it,
mhm.
each one of those pages went through and I made sure it was 25%. If I used a 50% transparency, each one of those pages went through and I made sure it was
Yes, yes,
50%.
yes.
Where it fell on the page, from back to back, each one of those lines, if you put the pages together, they should all be, one page.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm,
yeah,
mhm. Yep.
so it's
Yeah. And
and
like I said, it can seem like minutia, but it really, to a person who even isn't a designer, and I'm only bringing this up because I recently heard LaKeshia being interviewed on someone else's show, and I could literally feel through the computer screen how this particular customer who purchased her book, how she really had a heartfelt appreciation for the level of detail that was in the book, even if she didn't know exactly what it was that she was being so emotional about, aside from the subject matter.
Mhm.
That's the impression we want our products to give people.
Right.
That they are so moved by what they see that they evangelize you, they talk about you. That's the best marketing that you will ever have. I know there's this idea that, oh, do a bunch of social media posts and put it up here and go run ads and do all this and that. And that's all well and good and great, and they all have their purpose. But word of mouth will always get you far more traction than just relying strictly on your own strength and what you do. And it starts with design. Do you
Yep.
have a really quality product that people don't even know why they feel so, they just go, wow, it's like I mean, I just kept hearing her say it's beautiful. It's just so beautiful. I kept hearing that over and over and over
Right.
again. And that's what we want our products to represent, the best of us.
Right. The quality, the detail, and that's what, when I thought about it, like you said, besides the subject matter, how I wanted someone to feel. Before it ever got to anyone, I had an idea of when they got it, when they first saw it, how I wanted them to feel, and when they opened it, how I wanted them to feel. All of that went into it, and my my prayer was that they would feel that when it when they got it. And so it was so awesome to hear that and see, because they didn't know this. They hadn't met me in person or anything like that. I don't know them.
Mhm.
And so it was just so rewarding to me that they could feel what I put into it. And I was like, man, that's just like the best thing.
Yeah, yeah. That should be really your goal as you're going into design. So, as I said, this here is an example. What we're doing today is an example of what, while you're wanting to put together the thing for whether it's a full-time thing or a side hustle or whatever you're doing it, do put out your best possible work because it's going to help you in the long run, not just in the short run. So that's why we're doing this. So anyway, we'll move on to the next one. So let's see, our next one here and is called I Am Unstoppable. So I'll let you take it away.
Okay. So I chose this one. Initially, the design, the girls on the ladies on the cover caught my eye. Um, so a few things. Though it's different, at the same time, it almost blends into one.
Mhm.
Um, I think I may have chosen maybe a different background accent, possibly. Uh, Again, I'm not a fan of the font.
Mhm.
I still yet I don't know what the smaller font says that's in there. The gold is throwing off, it covers up the face. I'm not a fan of that personally. I probably would have chosen something different. I get that they were trying to get it to stand apart from the image, um, but the person's name. So in this case, whereas we talked about too many fonts, in this particular case, I think that she could have used a different font, at least one other font. I'm not crazy about the starburst behind her name. That reminds me, like if you go into the grocery store and they have like the sales stickers, highlight your name, but your books, and the works that you're putting out into the world are, your legacies in a sense. They
Yeah.
will be here beyond you.
Yep.
So what message are you sending? What message are you putting out there? Um, and I'm not sure if it's the young lady with the glasses on. I can't figure out if it's broken or if it's just I don't
Ah,
know, but it's kind of bothering me, or I don't know, maybe it's a glare.
yeah, it does. It does look like. Now this is interesting. When I blow it up, it's doing some cover,
Different.
is layering something on the cover, which I'm not sure quite what that's about, which is interesting, but that's something with Amazon. I don't think that's necessarily her. So I can't really see
Can't see, but yeah,
that way.
it
But
looks
let's go back to the front. And what I can do is I can get out of these pop-up windows. Okay, here we go. Yeah.
okay. So it looks like it's broken or something. I don't know, but that's distracting. Is what the point that
Right,
I'm
right,
getting at. So you don't want anything to take away from your cover. You want to put it in the best possible
right.
possible light. I do like the variations in the skin tones of the ladies. I like the smoothness of it, but at the same time, it the back looks all one. I don't know how to all one,
Mm-hmm.
um
Note.
and yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Kind of one note. Yeah, what to add to that? Well, so there's several things why and I'm just going to be kind of blunt here with why this cover doesn't work. um, in my opinion, um, I agree with everything that you said. I the font use is too much. I'm not a fan at all of the sort of gold wash brushstroke over the lady's face in this context. Um, I'm going to be a little blunt here. It feels a little disrespectful to cover their face like that, in my opinion. I love the image of the women.
Mhm. Right.
And to me, that's pretty much the only thing on this that really works for me is the image in and of itself. So all of the gold swipe action going on, I would remove every bit of that. And I didn't even think about until you brought it up was about the sort of the star with the font behind it. It does remind me of like a coupon sticker that you see inside
Right.
the grocery store. I didn't really put it that way, so that I wouldn't have either. And or if I wanted to have that there, I would have used the swipe effect and then put my name behind that if I just felt I needed to do that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if
I
I
don't.
was gonna, so let me ask you this. So okay, so let's look at it from this perspective. Let's make this a teaching moment. All this is a teaching moment. If this was brought in to you as a cover to audit and it was going to be a redesign,
Mm,
I know what I would do, but I want you to share what you would do.
sure. Absolutely. First thing, the font. I don't like it big. I don't like it small.
Mhm,
Um, so I would have chose two different fonts.
mhm,
Got rid of the starburst. I don't like the the paint strokes at all. I don't like it that it's covering the face.
mhm,
Um, Whatever's going on with the glasses, I probably would have wanted to, I would have wanted to fix that because it's distracting to me.
mhm,
And I would have changed the background more than likely to a different color.
mhm,
But something that was you know, complementary to the rest of the rest of the image.
mhm,
Um, if I wanted to use a cursive font, which I did use one, but I tried to pick one that was readable, but also one that kind of flowed. This one to me looks so the title of the book is I Am Unstoppable. The font doesn't speak that to me.
mhm,
Um, so I would have chosen something different
mhm,
and a guided journal of positive affirmations for Black women. I probably would have moved that down to the bottom so it's not distracting over their faces.
mhm,
And whatever is in the smaller, I think it says 52 weeks of something, whatever else is there would have went either into the inside
mhm,
or the back,
mhm,
or even, similar 52 weeks messages and prompts. Yeah, because it's more like a descriptor, so it probably
mhm,
should have went to the back of the or
mhm,
the inside.
mhm,
And the name, definitely not the Starburst. And I did use, I know on my particular cover, I did use a scripted font. So not that you can't use one, you just want to make sure it's one that people can read.
mhm,
Um, but I don't like the Starburst takes away. It doesn't fit in with either um, the the swipes,
mhm.
the paint strokes, or what's going on in the background. It's almost like you're saying that the book is a discount book without saying that the book is a discount book in a weird way.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
And if
Exactly.
you don't want it to be a discount book, then just be it's. I think we should be mindful of the elements that we're choosing to go into the book. Is what I'm saying, because they do mean something. Even though she was more than likely using it to highlight her name away from the woman's And she was also probably trying to cover up, because looking at the image a little closer, it looks like the lady that's behind her image, that maybe the shirt or top that she has on might be lower cut. So she was probably using it to,
Right.
camouflage what's going on in the background. But it, from the larger size, it actually draws attention to it versus, taking your eye
Right.
away from it. So
Right. Right.
yeah, that's definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So the first thing that comes to mind for me is I'm fairly certain that this was AI generated, and the glasses were not fully formed in the iteration they came out, which basically would make this image unusable unless you had the skills to be able to go into another third party software or some sort and go through and correct that. If you really loved the image, but it's clear that something is off with these glasses. It's obviously clear something's off with these glasses. So that would make the image, to me, because I have to keep in mind anything that looks off is where the eye's going to go. And again, there's so much going on here between the obvious issue with these glasses are not, they're not correct. They should either be removed or this image shouldn't be used. Um, the swipe over the face, again, I just kind of keep coming back to me. It feels a little, I know this is strong what I'm going to say, but it feels kind of disrespectful. It's like I'm swiping over her face, but I'm talking about, I'm not even crazy about the title. Unstop. I feel
Mhm.
like there's something else that could have come from that. It would have been a little bit more strong. I love the image, but there needs to have been some more iterations done, in my opinion, to get something closer to what, or like I said, have some extra work done to get this corrected here. Um, all of this, like you said, subtitle stuff, all of that could have gone on the inside. There was no reason to have that on the front. If you wanted to keep with the gold wash watercolor swipe, put it down at the bottom.
Mhm.
And goes back to the starting point of this is, if the title is going to be a script font, the subtitle should be a plain font, like a Canvas Sans or something like that, because the eye needs a, this is something that I want everyone listening to this or watching this to get. When you're setting up your design, whether it's a large paragraph of text, whether it's an image, or whatever the scenario may be, you've got to give the reader's eye a visual break. Otherwise, everything becomes what I call one note. And
Mhm.
so the person doesn't really know, okay, what am I supposed to pay attention to here? So if I'm going to use that particular script font for the title, then my subtitle, a guided journal, needs to be completely opposite of the scripted font, which in this case should be something that's much more simple, like
Mhm.
a Canvas Sans or something like that, so that my eye doesn't feel like it all runs in together. When you're going to use a really heavy scripted font like that, you can't have a lot of words there, because again, it makes it harder to read. So, and then
Right.
of course, making it a more complex font in a smaller size only makes it worse.
I
so,
agree.
so again, you've got, and like I said, I don't know where my eye doesn't know where to go, because there's so many different options available to me here. And then this whole thing about the starburst sort of thing, that's something that's subconscious, but I do recognize that shape with discounting.
Mhm.
So you have to think about the conscious messages your cover puts out and the subconscious messages that your cover puts out.
Right.
You got to think about both.
Right.
So if you are, so again, back to what we said at the top of this, every single thing you choose has to have a reason for being there. It has to be able to stand on its own. And if it doesn't, it needs to go out.
Right.
Just a good rule of thumb in design is for first iteration, I would say this is fine. And then every iteration I do, I'm changing something. I'm taking something out. I'm changing something. I'm taking something out. And just keep paring it down. I don't care if you're designing clothes, paintings, a book, a cover, whatever. You can create with abandon, but you design ruthlessly.
Mm.
You've got to be ruthless about it. And I know that sounds harsh, but people who are the top of their game will always say, it became better when I started taking stuff away.
Mhm.
It became
Yeah.
stronger when I started taking stuff away. And that's why we can't get married to anything.
Yeah.
What's your, I'll let you continue with
I
that because
I absolutely agree because I'm big on that. That the unspoken messaging that that I'm sending to someone. So you think about, we're in the age of online shopping. However, many of us, spend a lot of time shopping in regular, grocery stores, retail stores, some things like that. So when I saw that image, that was my immediate thought. I was like, oh, that looks like the starburst. And I was like, why?
yeah.
And I think I see two reasons why I think it was chosen. However, that's not the message you want to send to someone unless you are, it is on sale or clearance or something like. Well, I don't know even then if I would have chosen it, 'cause I think it would have been a better way to let someone know
Mhm.
that it was on sale. Um, so yes, everything has a meaning. And the another thing is the earring. I think that's the earring on the young lady that's in the middle of the image, but it doesn't match the earring on the other side. It actually looks like it belongs to the other young lady on the other side. So, you know, so
Yes.
um,
Yes.
working in AI myself, I I would either erase that or not used it.
Hmm.
It would have bothered me because what is it? Just looks like it's just kind of dangling out there, and you don't want to distract. You want people to look at the cover and get it. And I think sometimes we get caught up in trying to sell the whole book by putting all the words on the cover, but your cover is supposed to do the work for you. That's your initial selling point,
Hmm.
is the cover itself without all of the
Hmm.
words. Not saying don't not to have any words on it, but it's a book for a reason because you want them to get to the inside of it.
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
you
Right.
know,
Right.
so you want to entice them enough to want to pick it up and get on the inside.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. That's it. That's it. So again, I say it all to say is if a lot of people who are putting together, in my audience in particular, coloring books, planners, journals, that kind of thing, let's just be real. You're probably not a trained designer. This is something that you passionately want to do, and good, bravo for that. That's why you're listening. That's why you're here. But you're not required to know all the things about everything, you know? And that's why having like my program, having, great talented people like a LaKeshia who has the background in design, and she used it with what my training is about this, putting the book together, finding the so on and so forth. That's why these programs and these services exist, because you're not supposed to know everything about everything. I would venture most people who put together a coloring book, myself included, although I have a background in publishing, self-publishing, but I I only can do what I knew. to do. So I say to everyone listening, you only can do what you know to do. Um, the thing I do want to make sure I emphasize, though, is that, and while with all the wonderful tools with AI, and again, it's another reason why I wanted to bring LaKeshia on, because she is really has really strong skill um, and expertise in that area of AI and generation, because it's a tool and resource that we're using. She's way stronger at it than I am, hands down, which is why I wanted to introduce you to her. So again, whether your book is published already and you want to improve it, or you're in the beginning stages of it, or what have you, do take advantage of the opportunity to have the conversation with her for her expertise, because you only get one chance to make a first impression.
Mhm.
And you want to put your best face for it, because it does impact why you're doing this. Unless it's a strictly vanity project, you're doing this because you want to have at least a part-time income from it,
Right.
you know. And if you can invest time, which you can always make more money, but you can't ever get back time. So if you're going to invest time in doing this, put the best possible product out there that you can, so that your time financially is rewarded. And you never know how many sales you may or may not will have gotten, because something is, well, I shouldn't say as simple as your cover, but but something is, and is excuse me, as important as your cover is not working for you.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Definitely don't want it to work against you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So let's see
Absolutely.
here. Let's pop over. We're gonna look at maybe one more, because I know we've been going a little while. I know we had some others, and we can always do a part two. So
Absolutely.
so let's look at maybe one or two more, and I'll let you take it away. So why did you pick this one, LaKeshia?
I don't I don't like it at all. Um, so when at first when I saw it, I wasn't even sure what was happening with the image. I didn't even see the type in the upper left hand corner. It blends for one, and the typography is so wispy um, that it looks like the accent marks that's in the picture.
Mhm.
I can't tell if the image is supposed to be two different people, or if it, I don't know. I can't,
Mhm.
I don't like the image for one.
Mhm.
And I don't think that the type speaks Black powerful queen at all, from the choice of the wispiness of the font to it's not. If I were choosing a title that says Black powerful queen, it
Mhm.
needs to be bolder. It needs to say that without, saying it. The choice of font needs to speak to what I am writing, for the font.
Mhm.
Um, and then what does the title mean? What is the book about?
Mhm.
It just says Black Powerful Queen. What does that mean? I
Mhm.
mean, is
Mhm.
it a book? Is it a planner? Is it
Mhm.
a journal? Is it a notebook? I mean, what am I purchasing? And then does my image say Black Powerful Queen? I mean, uh, she is black, so I get that, but I don't know if that's supposed to be hair,
Mhm.
and is the hair turning into a shirt? What is the yellow over there? I don't know, but it just doesn't work for me like at all. So how would I improve this one? I would just choose a totally different image. Work on the title. Some definitely make sure my type fits my fits my title, and I would just totally rework that one.
Yeah.
Period. Point blank. Um, Yeah,
All right.
I don't know.
Well,
Sorry, and I don't.
no, it's
So again, this is supposed to be an educational moment, and uh, I guess some images. So again, we talked about earlier on images evoking emotion. My reaction is not the reaction you want a buyer to have. To the cover. Granted, I chose it, but I chose it because
mhm,
I was really trying to understand what is happening. You don't have time in internet sales for people to think about what your cover is, to try to figure out, what's going on with your image, or to think about, well, what does Black powerful queen mean? What is it? What am I buying? What are you selling? Um, you you need to tell me what what you're selling.
mhm,
People, uh things are instantaneous. People don't necessarily want to spend a whole lot of time thinking, not initially. They want to see it, know what it is, make the purchase. Or at least that's what the hope is, that's what's happening. And
yeah. Mm.
yeah, and that's what I have to say about that.
Well, I'll just echo and again, um, yes, I'll just echo everything that you said. I won't be, snarky or anything like that. Um, I don't even know where to begin with this one because as you were speaking, I'm looking at it and I'm just going to say what my impression, me personally, what my impression of it is. I don't even notice Black Powerful Queen at the top. That doesn't even register. I see
Right.
something up there, but it's so small that I don't even
Mhm.
register that. What is coming to me, and I'm going to try to be as diplomatic as I can, it looks like she may be getting ready to kiss someone. And my immediate thought was by the shape here across the, is that supposed to be a man?
Right.
And if it's a man, I'm assuming that's what it's supposed to be. And maybe this is supposed to be a shirt, perhaps. But then what is the brown dot for? The brown shape for? Um,
And why is he
because of the
blending in?
color of this and because of the shape of this, what I'm thinking, and I'm just speaking for me, looks, I don't want to say it, but look at that. I'm not going there, but I'm just going to say that what is she supposed to be kissing? So I'm looking at this like going, okay, what is that? Because I'm sorry, every time I look at it, my mind just keeps going to, okay, well,
I'm
I
confused.
know that's not what that is. I know that's not what that is, but that's kind of what my mind is picking up.
Right.
Because the feeling that I've got, because of the pose, because of the position of the lips, because of the angle,
The
it's
ain't
like she
right.
is going to have
Mm-hmm.
an interaction with someone based on this here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, what is she supposedly kissing? That's where my mind's going. So without going into any more detail about it, because I don't want to be, nothing about this works. From
I
um,
agree.
the color palette, the typography, it just It doesn't work. Um, and I would, so take all of the image out completely and just start with the words. So this is a teachable moment for those listening. If you've chosen what your title is about, then I would say, okay, the title of my book is going to be called, in this context, Black Powerful Queen. When you hear those words, what images come to mind? And if you're using, now in the age of AI, and you are now using AI generating tools, and I'm just going to use one in this example, Midjourney. I know there's a million other ones. I'm just going to say Midjourney because that's the one that I know. Then type in those words into Midjourney and see what comes back.
Mhm.
Say I am doing a prompt could be I am doing a book cover or a coloring book or a planner journal called Black Powerful Queen, and then see what it comes back with. And if that's your first starting point, then print those images out and study them. Or if you don't have those resources, go to Pinterest and put in those words, or go to Google and put in those words. Um, Something came to comes to all of us when we first start to conceptualize what our book is going to be about. There's some visual that comes to us when we are even the beginning stages of the seed that germinates the idea is coming to us. One of my favorite tactics that I will say to anyone listening is to start yourself a swipe file. In the copywriting world, copywriters use the term swipe file all the time. Basically, if you find a piece of copy that you like, you save it. Some people call it copy stocking, like stocking a shelf kind of thing. Whatever you want to use, it doesn't matter. But start collecting images. Like I said, if you don't have the AI tools, go to Pinterest and start putting in your keywords, Black powerful queens, whatever. If there's a reference, like for an example, there was do you know the name of the movie, LaKeshia, that Viola Davis did, where she was the warrior in Africa who was fighting off the colonizers that were coming to there's
Woman King,
hmm, the
Woman King, I believe.
yeah, like watch that movie or at least look it up or get, like literally, like that should be your first. I was gonna make this a full on teachable moment. Start start collecting images from films, this, that, and the third, or whatever, with Instagram, TikTok, like I said, Pinterest. Start finding images that represent what you want the subject or the title of your book to be about. That should be the first exercise that everyone does. As a matter of fact, I've been talking about your listening, contacting LaKeshia about having a consult with her. Before you even book that session with her, you should be doing what I'm telling you right now to do, because you have to give her something to work with. So that, because what we've got in our head and what we see in our hand, we've got to be able to verbalize that to someone. So I say that's your first thing before you start doing anything, before you start making coloring pages, before you start making journal pages, before you start getting all excited about all the money you're going to make on Amazon selling all these books, before you do any of that, start doing your research so that when you bring someone else in to help you bring your vision to life, they can get what's in your head based on what you show them.
Mhm.
And this is a context where you can then start to see, oh, okay, yeah, that I like that. Oh, okay, no, I'm really not, I really don't like that. Okay, no, this works better for me. And so that way it becomes a dance between you and your consultant, so that you now are on the same page. Because again, this is not about putting down someone's work, but as we've both said, it can be a lot of work to put this together. I hate to see you spend money, time, which you cannot get back, and resources putting together something and just have it be, oh, well, my book's on Amazon. I'm published. Well, that's great. But you didn't do it because, well, you may have done it because you're bored. I don't know. But I would tend to think you're doing it because you want to make even a part-time income from it.
Right.
It's got to represent it's got to represent.
Hmm.
There's really nothing more to add to that.
Right.
It's got to represent. So, again, if you take anything away, and I'll put this in the show notes, start collecting data, start collecting images, start collecting resources, so that when you get to the point, whether you're in a course or a program, or you work with like a consultant like LaKeshia, you're coming in showing them showing us what's on your mind. And then that way the time is better spent, and you'll walk away with something that, because our goal is to support you in bringing your vision to life. It's not about putting you down or making you feel bad or saying, oh, why did you? It's not about any of that.
Yep.
We want to support you in putting your vision to life, but we've also got to know what's on your mind, and what
Right.
does that represent to you, so that then we can help support you in the best possible light.
Right. Yep.
Yep. I'll leave it at that.
I
This is
agree.
actually a great pick, LaKeshia. I'm glad you picked this one. So, yeah. Let's maybe do one more. Let's look at what we have here. Okay, let's pick one more, and then we'll stop on this one.
The gold is back. So
What did you say? The
what?
gold is
The
back?
gold is back. So I chose this one because I couldn't read what the word was. I was like, what is that saying?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I I think this is a good example of what you probably don't want to do. I think that maybe it could be AI generated. I'm not 100% sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's a daily journal. She's holding up something that says, minding my business. I do like, I do get it, but
Mm-hmm.
I think I would have chosen something different,
Mm-hmm.
a different image.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Definitely not the goal. It doesn't fit, it's too harsh in a sense against the um, kind of watercolor
Mm-hmm.
background of the rest of the picture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and it's a daily journal, but what does that mean exactly? So looking at what she wrote there, and then looking at the title that's at the top, it says uh, Black Girl Daily Journal, Black Queen Journal Writing. I don't know that that's necessarily represented on the cover of the book. I have to, I need to go over here to read what the journal is actually supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the purple writing against the goal is very difficult to see,
Mm-hmm.
and the script against that goal doesn't. The script font or typography
Mm-hmm.
is working also against the goal. It's scripted, and then you have the texture in it that is kind of a bit too much. Not that she couldn't necessarily have that if she wanted that, um, I guess brushstroke effect, but
Mhm.
because the background image is a watercolor, I probably would have chosen some type of watercolor that complemented, but maybe out against the back of the image
Mhm.
personally.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that.
I will. Oh, I'm sorry. Was there something more you
Oh,
wanted?
no, no, no. I was just gonna say that's just what my thoughts are,
Okay.
regarding that.
What I will, this is an example to me of what I feel that there are some bones there.
Mm,
Um, because the only thing that stands out for me is the aside, I even can get with the book. I'm not
right.
crazy about the color or the font choice, but I love the woman, the pose, and the cup and the book. I like that a lot. So
I
that's what
agree.
I mean by there's bones there. Um, I feel like for sure this watercolor background idea doesn't work. The gold swipe with the lavender or whatever that color is font doesn't work. The style does none of this works around it. If I could take her out of this whole element, change that book and put it on something that matches what this feeling is about for me, this could actually be a strong cover.
Hmm.
I would even go so far as to say if the book that she's holding, and I even can get, so there's a couple of things. While I love the book and I get what she means
Right.
by minding my business. I get that.
Hmm.
Um Again, my mind, I'm looking at that from an perhaps an entrepreneurial perspective. I mean, I'm minding my business,
Hmm.
or
Right.
I'm minding my business, meaning that I'm not, taking care of myself, whatever. But there's a couple different ways people, and I'm only saying this to say you have to look at how people are going to read that.
Right.
Okay. Now, from a positioning perspective, if this was about minding my business, and this was going to be, let's say, a journal or whatever. Let's say she is, there's a term that's been going around for a while, she's a boss bee or a boss, I'm not going to say the word because, I have a, I don't, whatever. So, um, if she's a boss and she's taking a day away from running her business to take care of herself, then perhaps what this could be like a journal plan or whatever the case may be, where she's taking the time to kind of write out her feelings about, you know, because she's so busy working, she's now giving herself an afternoon to be able to take a break, to be able to, to do some work on herself. I'm probably overthinking it way too much, but I'm saying I get it. I like it. I like her. I just want to take her out of this whole background and put her somewhere else that really supports this design.
Hmm.
Um that's my opinion about it. Because like I said, this here just doesn't do anything for this, and this doesn't do anything for this. But I stand by what I said before. There's some bones here.
Hmm.
It just needs to have a second set of eyes to give it more. So again, as a critique, I would say if this is your concept, then go do your research to see what that visually represents like this and see what comes up and what elements could you put into your project. um and I'll just kind of land it there, like I said, because there's really not more. I don't know at the end, we don't have an inside view of the book, so I don't know what any of the rest of it looks like. Um, but now I don't know if this is the same person or not. This is not a part of the ones we're going to click on. But I mean, there's nothing more here in terms of title or anything like that. I mean, it's just the image, but I don't think the image is bad. I mean, I don't know if this is the same. I think this is a different author. I mean, it's the same person. So, but anyway, um, again, go to Amazon and type in your book title or the subject and see what comes up. This is just a part of your general research. See what comes up. And this is the thing, what made you stop scrolling? What made you click? You know, and use that as part of your reference for when you're designing your cover. I guess the only thing I'll say to land the plane on everything we've talked about today is
And
don't
I,
make your cover an afterthought.
mm,
It's as you can clearly see, it's important as based on what we're talked about today. Don't make it an afterthought. Um,
I'd like to call something out in this particular image here.
mhm.
Be very careful of using images that are trademarked. Um,
Oh, yeah.
so while I like the feel of the image because it speaks like a, like
Mhm, mhm,
classy
mhm, mhm,
and luxury,
mhm, mhm.
you don't want to get into trouble with someone coming after you, and Amazon can and will, shut down your account. So be careful
Right.
of using trademarked things, even using trade if you are using AI to generate images. I personally, I don't use any trademark words in any of my prompts or descriptors. I don't even use, if it was Disney or Pixar, I don't use Disney like or Pixar like. I stay away from them. Describe the look that you want to see.
Mhm.
She could have used, I don't know, gold circles. I get it, what she was trying to do,
Right,
but
right, right.
you're infringing on somebody else's own property.
Yeah,
And
that's a good
we
point.
don't want to do that. You want to create covers that are, aesthetically pleasing. You want to sell your book, but you want to be ethical in doing so.
Mhm,
So
mhm, mhm, mhm. I agree. I completely forgot about that, and I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, be very careful about that because yeah, that will get your account shut down and potentially open you up for a potential issue coming back because I'm not even going to say the name out loud, but we look at that and know what that is. So I'm glad you brought
exactly.
that up. I'm glad you brought that up. All righty. I've enjoyed this. I hope you all watching this got a lot of value out of this. I'm definitely going to do this. We're going to do this again. And I hope what all of you got out of this today is, again, we can't get better until we have to put something out there to begin with. So I applaud every single person. I mean this sincerely. I applaud every single person who we've looked at today because you did it. You actually got it done and you did it. There's a lot of people that won't even go as far as you've gotten.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I want to start there. With that said, we always can improve, we always can get better. And sometimes, or a lot of times, we just don't know what we don't know. Like being design for and the art of design, the rules of design, all of that is not everyone's wheelhouse. It's just not. It's not our wheelhouse. So you can't do what you don't know. But that's why it's always great to bring in someone with a fresh set of eyes that is not married to your idea like you are, but can support you in bringing the vision to life in a much more thoughtful way and understanding what your message is, who your message is for, and how to best interpret that vision visually so that the people that you want to get your products will actually say, yeah, I want that. Just at the mere look at it, I want that. And that's again why I wanted to bring LaKeshia on, because she gets that visually. As I mentioned throughout the whole broadcast today, or the video, or this video and YouTube and audio, that LaKeshia offers consults to help you to get more clarity about that vision, and even can help you execute the final product. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the link in the show notes, but what I want to do is take a few minutes, and I want LaKeshia to kind of talk a little bit about her service, what how she works, and who and how to prep. I've given suggestions for things to do to prep, but I'd like her to share what she's looking for people who want to book this call with her, what she needs so that you can maximize your time together. So I'm going to pull up the link to your offer, LaKeshia, and then I'll let you for your consult, and then I'll let you just talk about it. So let me pull that up. So I'm going to go out of her book. If you go to the artofmelaninai.com, this is the front page of her site. Again, I will put the link in the show notes. And these are all of this is her digital planner and physical planner journal that she's created. And right down here is a write, you write the story, we cover it. So she's skilled in AI and book cover design. So I'm going to click on, let's see, if I click on this directly, that'll take me to the service. Right there. Okay. So you want to talk a little bit about this, LaKeshia?
Oh, absolutely. So, um, as we stated before, you have just a few seconds to sell your work. The thought behind the book cover consultation is to help you stop the scroll and help you increase the sales to your work. Because ultimately, we're in this because we are trying to make an income. Whether it's a side hustle for you or whether it's full time uh, income. And the consultation is 45 minutes where we will talk about the vision for your work. I would like to hear what you're thinking about for a title, who your target audience is, because that helps me to consider typography. It helps me consider the images. Um, it will help with color. All of that plays a part. So, like Rodney said earlier, it will be important for me to have visual representations of what you're thinking about, so I can get an idea of the emotion that you want to evoke in the person. I would like to hear the theme of your work. If it's not like a manuscript, if it's more of a journal planner type, what's what's the theme? Um, what else? Um, and so when you book the consultation, I will send you an email with sort of a questionnaire type thing. So you can put links in there. When we come to the meeting, you can show me the pictures or you can send them to me prior to. What else? Would you scroll just a little bit down on the image? I want to make sure I'm not target audience, personal vision, and yes, I think I've kind of covered everything. You want to have something that stands out. Now, so far, now granted, I haven't looked at every journal or
Mhm.
digital planner out there, but I do know based on what I've seen, just my own personal works, they stand out against other things on the market. Other group, and that's what you want. You can still say the same thing or a similar thing, but have your work stand out against everything else that people are
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
seeing. That's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I
And
think
you're
for the
Normally
different.
charge $350 for these consults, but for limited time for our audience here, as a part of being part of the, I know, the Coloring Book Creator podcast listener, she's offering for $100 for a limited time. We don't know exactly when she's going to not offer it at that price point anymore. So if you got anything out of what you heard today, I would say, and I'm going to really, as a phrase I love to use, as I'm going to land the plane on this. It takes work to put a project together, whether it's a planner, journal, coloring book, whatever, or if you're writing a book, if it's a novel, if it's a nonfiction book, whatever the scenario may be, the rules all apply the same. We spoke a lot about planners today, journals, that kind of product today, but this goes across whatever kind of book that you are going to do.
Right.
If you're going to invest time in courses to learn how to write the book or create the book in terms of the interior of the book, if you're going to pay for software to, whether it's Canva or whether it's maybe Photoshop or whether it's, an editing software program or anything, if you're going to invest in all of those things to put the book out there, but you are sort of like this and ambivalent about investing $100 to make sure that the number one thing that's going to sell that book, that becomes an afterthought, you've got everything backward. Everything is backward. No one's going to read what they're not attracted to, what they're not paying attention to. Whether it's a written story, whether it's a coloring book, a planner, journal, whatever the case may be, the cover sells it. The cover sells it. And $100 to invest to make sure that you're putting the best face forward is money well spent. So look at whatever you spent money on, website, social media, courses on writing, courses on book, you've done all of that thing, but you are like this about whether or not I want to book a consult, you're working backward. You're thinking backward. This is a no-brainer, in my opinion. It's an absolute no-brainer. I believe so strongly in LaKeshia and what she's doing. In my coloring book creator program, I'm bringing her into my program. A consult will be a part of the work that you will do with me. I will help you get the book developed, but you will work with her to get the cover, at least get the concept for the cover down. That's how strongly I believe in her and what she's doing. Please don't leave this to, and again, I'm going to say one more thing, which is kind of echoing on what she said about copyright. And again, this is something that is not really well known. So if you didn't get anything out of anything we talked about today, please get this, what I'm about to say. Be very careful about using Canva elements in your book, especially on your cover. Amazon, which all these books we reviewed today is on Amazon. Amazon is shutting down accounts for using copywritten material. You can't claim copyright for artwork that you don't own. So if you're grabbing things from Canva and using them in your cover, you run the risk. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I can't say that, but you run the risk of that. By having a consult with LaKeshia and whatever you two decide to do moving forward with actually designing the cover. Now, I'm not saying she's designing your cover. I'm saying you're having a consult about the cover. If you choose to go further with her to have her design the cover, then you two will discuss that. But you want to stay safe and compliant so that you don't run into an issue. Because again, I'm not saying that it's going to take you a year to put your book together. It shouldn't take anywhere near that long. But whatever, how long it takes to put it together, you don't want to go through all of that and then one day to find out that you've been either shut down or the cover just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And I don't think I know it. This is a no-brainer investment. It's a no-brainer investment. You shouldn't even think twice about it. You should be signing up for this as soon as you finish watching this video. And I say, don't wait. If the book is done, great. If it's not really working for you, go back. That's the first link you give her to where the book already is. That's the first link you give her. If the book is in development, you still book a call with her anyway, because at least will put you on the right path. Because at any point you can course correct and or redesign if necessary. But don't sleep on this, is what I'm saying to you. Don't sleep on this. Don't dismiss this as, oh, I'll just grab something from Canva and put it together and throw it up there and it's going to be okay. Because it's not.
Mhm. And
Yeah, anything you want to add to
these
that?
platforms that you're putting your books on, they do use AI to detect what's going on with the images and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't use Canva, and that includes typography in Canva.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot use the all of the typography on your
Mm-hmm.
covers, and people aren't aware of that. Or, but when you sign up for Canva, it is in the terms and conditions. It's just that oftentimes we don't take the time to read or understand, and we just assume that we can use everything because we have access to it. But that's not the case, because um, a lot of those elements belong to designers that actually own the copyright to them. So you are infringing on
Mm-hmm.
their copyright, and we want to stay away from that. So again, like I said earlier about the trademarking, same thing about copywriting. You want to do your book ethically,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm big on that. In the past, like years, I've had people come to me for design work for, t-shirt designs, and they might have been in certain like MLMs or different companies and wanted me to design. I could do the design, but I'm not going to do it unless a lot of the companies, or even sororities, fraternities, that type of thing. Some of these, you even have to be careful of infringing on colors, certain colors. There are
Mm-hmm.
certain hex codes. They are actually, trademarked and copyrighted. You don't want to you don't want to get into that. They will come after you. But I've had people come to me wanting me to do the designs, and I have turned them down unless they can produce for me, because a lot of these companies will have a write-up of what their parameters are. So if you can bring me that write-up to tell me what the parameters are that I can work inside of to do, because they will give you the dimensions, they will tell you the colors, they will tell you, what you can do, what you can't do. But if you can't produce that, I can't do the work for you. I
Okay.
uh, I'm not going to do that. I don't infringe on anybody's, copyright or trademark. I would not want anyone to do it to mine.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good to know. That's good to
Mhm.
know. So seriously, I mean, imagine $100 can save you potentially thousands of time, hours that you never get back, and or possibly being sued.
Absolutely. Being sued, some of these platforms you get banned from for life. You don't get to come back. If it's your main livelihood, I mean, you have people on some of these that have been on some of these platforms for years. One misstep has,
Mm-hmm.
cost them, and you may have been able to get away with it for months, years at a time.
Mm-hmm.
But we're in a new age right now,
Mm-hmm.
and AI is out detecting things. There are people on, and this is not a scare thing. This is just an educational moment,
Yeah.
because I seen it. Um, there are people, their job is to look for copyright and trademark infringement on these platforms. That is their job. They are hired by universities, they are hired by sports teams, and that is what they do. And sometimes you can, you will get a cease and desist. Sometimes you get completely banned and you're trying to figure out why. And if it's your main source of income, you've lost your main source of income. And you think about what you do with that income. You're trying to take care of your family. You're trying to travel. You're trying to do the things that are important to you. So it should be important enough to,
Hmm.
be on the up and up and be, you
Yeah.
know, ethical and on the right side of things when you're delivering a body of work. It should be your legacy, not your legacy infringed on someone else's.
Yeah.
Then it's not really
Yeah,
yours.
I wanna echo on what you said because I recently posted something in my coloring book creator Facebook group about some recent shutdowns that have been occurring around AI in particular on Etsy. And
Mhm.
Etsy is using AI to detect AI, and it's just blanket shutting people's things down. Now, it's not across the board. Everyone is not in the issue, but we're again just alerting that it's happening. And a comment to the post was suggesting that I was using a fear tactic because I have a podcast episode I created actually almost 18 months ago that I recorded, and I'll put the link to that in the show notes here. I created a podcast in direct response to a very prolific coloring book publisher slash author who had an extremely powerful presence on Facebook. I will not, for legal reasons, mention the name. Supposedly, or I don't know, I can't confirm this, but that there was just person was generating substantial sales. It was reported that it was in the five-figure monthly range. There was an issue that happened. It was suggested there was a copyright issue that occurred, and the account was shut down and the funds were held. And so I recorded a podcast episode in response to that. This is not something that's just started happening recently. It's not something but it is something that I've been seeing consistently over the 2 years that I have been the coloring book creator. I've been seeing consistently happening, and it's happening with more frequency because AI is now so prevalent. So I want to be 1000% clear. I don't need to use a scare tactic. If it makes you nervous what I'm saying, then take that as the energy that is. But I don't need to use a scare tactic to get you to get your attention. If it gets your attention and makes you go back and look at what's going on, then consider it time well spent. But I don't need to frighten anyone into checking out what's going on and making sure that they're covered. And the rules of the game are being rewritten moment to moment to moment. It's not like there's a
Mhm.
playbook that says this is the rules and this is what we're doing. With this new world we live in right now, the rules are changing moment to moment. What was available at 8 o'clock in the morning may be different by 8 p.m. that evening.
Right.
And how will you know if you don't know? You don't know what you don't know. So being able to invest time in someone who spends time studying this, living it, breathing it, working at it all the time. Now, from a legal advice perspective, neither one of us are legal advisors at all. We're not even claiming that. But based on the knowledge and awareness that we have, we're trying to give you the best possible information based on the data that's known to us that we have. So it's worth it to take advantage of that information so that you're not scrambling, guessing. Well, somebody in this group said that, so it must be okay. Well, where do they get the information from? You don't know, and you don't know what you don't know. So anyway, I'm not going to keep beating this over the head. Um, I hope that you got value out of what was shared today. I hope that you got inspired by what's possible and that you take the time to invest in yourself, including the education, the resources to be able to make sure that what you're putting out there is something that you can stand behind now, 5 years from now, like LaKeshia kept saying, your legacy. What can you put out there that you can stand behind years from now? And that really, to me, because all at the end of the day, all you really have is your reputation. It's really all you really got. And why go through all the work if it's all going to be just taken away because of something that you just didn't know? You just didn't know. So anyway, LaKeshia, any last thoughts before I wrap it?
No, not a whole lot other than I have thoroughly enjoyed today. I appreciate being here, excited to see what ideas people have concerning their particular works. Excited to help you bring them to life. I just my own personal experience, that feeling of seeing what you worked so hard at come to fruition is just a beautiful thing, and I want to other people to have that same experience, but to a higher level. We sometimes are in such a rush just to get it out there, and I understand it, but I'm of the belief that you want to put out the best possible version of
Mhm,
your work as
mhm,
best as you can,
mhm.
because quite literally it has your name.
Has your name on it. Exactly. Exactly. Literally has your name on it.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly. All righty. Well, thanks again, LaKeshia. And again, for you all listening, watching. Actually, this has been more in depth than I initially planned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a condensed version of this audio wise for the audio version of the podcast, because you really need to watch this. You can't just listen to what we're saying. So I'm going to do a much more condensed version of this on the audio version of the podcast, because I want you to go look at the video on YouTube and watch this so you can see what we're talking about. And but all the links, all the resources, including how to get in touch with LaKeshia, is going to be on both the YouTube and the audio version of the podcast. And you will be hearing from her again. This is only the first time. You'll be hearing from her a lot more, especially from me. So with that said, thank you so much. Thank you all for watching or listening, and I'll be seeing you again. And also, too, I'll put my contact information in there as well. And I have every reason to believe that we're going to do another one of these critiques again. And
Mhm.
if you'd like your book, if it's already published and you want to get a critique about it, send it over and we'll take a look at it. Maybe I'm not promising anything, but maybe you might get picked for the next show and review uh, session that we do. So with that said, this is Rodney Washington, your host, signing off. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna stop the share, and I'm just gonna stop the recording.